Hello guys, T99 here and welcome to today's video where today we're going to be going through my tips and predictions for the 8th round of the NRL season. Last week we kind of did alright, we did 5 of 8, we did have a bit of upsets go our way and against our way, so hopefully we'll just try to improve and do better. But I've kind of been hitting that 4 or 5 like thresh point, so without further ado, let's get into the game. Starting off with the matches on Thursday as we have the Brisbane Broncos hosting the Canterbury Bulldogs. Now, the Broncos are coming off a golden point loss to the Warriors in New Zealand. The Broncos, people said that the refereeing was quite bad in that game. Brisbane weren't also that great either, and Reece Walsh obviously was affected the entire match with injury, and now he's going to be out for a decent period of time. And they're coming up against the Bulldogs, who are the informed team currently at the moment in the NRL. So, coming off a 32-0 win over the Bunnies, they have not conceded points for about 3 matches at this point, or 2 matches they've gone unscored. But, you know, one of those types of things. But yeah, I feel like with Walsh being out, it's going to be quite an interesting factor. This being at Suncorp could be a bit of an interesting leveler, but I'm just going to say, yeah, I think the Bulldogs will be able to continue their winning streak as they go 7 in a row. And now we move on to Friday, where it is, of course, the ANZAC Day matches. And at 4 p.m, it is the traditional one of all these clashes, it is the Sydney Roosters taking on the St George Illawarra Dragons. Now, the Dragons are coming off quite a close win at Manly. It was a bit of a grudge match, to say the very least, and very sluggish, but the Dragons did enough to get over the line. And the Roosters were pimp-slapped by what seems to be a resurgent Panthers side, as they just weren't really... It was weird. They were in it from the beginning, but they just sort of capitulated and just let the Panthers run riot as they finally get their first win in Australian soil. I think this match is going to be quite close. It's Roosters are the favourites. I think this is going to be quite a hard one to predict, and I'm going to go with the outsiders. But on ESPN, as they are actually the favourites in terms of tips entered, I'm going to say the Dragons will win this game. Now, following that, we head over to New Zealand as we see the Warriors take on the Newcastle Knights. Now, the Warriors, as mentioned in the first tip, got a golden point victory over Brisbane. They played quite well and honestly had pretty much just a golden chance handed to them as the Broncos just kicked it out, essentially, at the beginning of golden point, and a slotted penalty goal from 50 metres out won the game. But the Newcastle Knights, they're still not the greatest attacking team. They're coming off a loss to the Sharks, as they have currently now lost 4 straight games, hoping to avoid 5, which would be the longest losing streak they've had since the very end of the 2022 season, slashed with the start of the 2023 season. So Dylan Lucas is back for the Knights. Pretty much we're now getting back to a full-strength team. I think this will be hopefully a better showing for the Knights, but I can't tip them. I really just can't. So I'm going to say that the Warriors get the job done here. Now we go into the final game of the ANZAC rounds, as we have the Melbourne Storm taking on the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Now, the Melbourne Storm got slapped by the Dolphins. It was a really interesting game of just how the Dolphins really just showed up and put them to the sword. It was a very good showing for them, but for the Storm, it was really weird because the Storm has been a little bit inconsistent so far this season, and the South Sydney Rabbitohs are coming off, of course, their 32-0 loss to the Bulldogs on Good Friday. A little bit of a crash out over one of these, essentially. But yeah, I think this is going to be quite interesting to see how Melbourne can bounce back from this. It is down in Melbourne, so I do expect them winning. Rabbitohs could make it a little bit closer than I guess people would probably think, but yeah, it's just not really going to be, I think, that much of a competition. I'm going to say the Storm end up winning. Now we go over to the Saturday matches, and at 5:30, we have the North Queensland Cowboys taking on the Titans in a Queensland sort of rivalry. It's not really quite sort of Queensland. They're both from Queensland. The North Queensland Cowboys are coming off a bye, but previously won over in Perth against South Sydney. And the Gold Coast Titans are coming off a not the worst performance. They started the game quite well against the Raiders, but then the Raiders came back which has been a problem for the Titans about having really good starts but then just capitulating. And yeah, this is up at Townsville. I think this could be a nice, interesting, close matchup, but I just think that with the momentum the Cowboys currently have, because they are going quite well at the moment, I think they'll try to push themselves to jump back into the top 8. I think the Cowboys win this. And now we go to the 7:35 kickoff on the Saturday as we have the Penrith Panthers taking on the Manly Sea Eagles. Now, the Panthers, they finally show up. Right when I don't tip them, they get a decent win over the Roosters. They get their first win on Australian soil. And the Manly Sea Eagles are coming off a close game against the Dragons, but unfortunately ended up losing. Now, every time I've tipped the Panthers this year, they've lost. Every time I haven't tipped them, they've won. So basically, I'm kind of screwed in terms of this matchup, but I do feel like the Panthers are starting to slowly switch on. Manly, obviously with their main players being out for a bit, this is going to be a bit of a tall ask for them, but I'm going to be hopeful. I'm going to say Penrith wins this game, but take that as you will, because yeah, who knows if that will even work. And now we go into the Sunday games, where at 2 p.m. we have the Canberra Raiders taking on the Dolphins. Two teams who have been quite decent in the last couple of weeks, both on 3 wins in a row. The Raiders are coming off a comeback win over the Titans, while the Dolphins eviscerated the Melbourne Storm. So this is actually quite a decent matchup. And I feel like this is one that could potentially go either way. Like, I feel like at some point we may need to sit down and figure out, are the Canberra Raiders a legitimate threat? And I feel like there is a match in 2 weeks where they take on the Bulldogs, where I believe that's going to be sort of the measuring stick of where Canberra are at. Because I think, let's be honest, if Canberra win that and knock off the Bulldogs off their winning streak, then I genuinely think you have to put them in as a threat for the title. I think Canberra are going quite well. Dolphins, it should be a very exciting game. I think it'll be quite close. I am just going to edge it out and say I think the Raiders will just about get the game done. But yeah. And now we go into the final match of the round at 4:05 p.m. Leichhardt Oval. It is the West Tigers up against the Cronulla Sharks. Now, the Tigers are coming off a loss on Easter Monday to Parramatta, who obviously have now got their Mitchell Moses back. And the Cronulla Sharks are coming off a pretty decent win against the Knights. But then again, it's the Knights. It's like nothing special at this point. But yeah, they've got enough to get them done. They've now got the Dally M leader and William Kennedy, which is, I don't know, it's just they always pick the back, so I don't understand why people are complaining. But yeah, Lachlan Galvin is going to be playing this week. It's going to be interesting to see how the crowd takes to him. I think it'll be kind of split. I think there will be people who will cheer for him, but I also think there'll be a lot of people booing him. So it's going to be quite an awkward thing. Maybe it could be a nice way to turn them around if the Tigers do get the win. I don't think so, but I think the Cronulla Sharks will continue as they try to cement themselves in the top 8. So yeah, I think the Sharks win this. So there we go. That's the end of my tips. So just a quick run through of who I have for this round. We have the Bulldogs, the Dragons, the Warriors, the Storm, the Cowboys, the Panthers, the Raiders, and the Sharks. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all later.